Stop podcast surfing. You're in the right place. I've always wanted to sing. Hi, everyone. I am your host, Kimbralon B. I'm a licensed counselor, but I'm not your counselor. And I'm also the host of Good Tea and Reads. So I created Good Tea and Reads so we could use everyday topics, issues, and current events to explain the importance of mental health awareness. Most mental health discussions are so important because so many people suffer in silence or do not realize that they're dealing with mental health issues because of stigma, society, and family expectations, and other reasons. Some episodes on Good Tea and Reads are heavy and will make us think. Other episodes will be very enlightening or refreshing. But either way, you will have an awesome experience. Here's the disclaimer. Any information shared on Good Tea and Reads is not a substitute for seeking professional care from another professional. Any information shared on Good Tea and Reads is not meant to diagnose the subjects or persons discussed on this podcast. Also, any information shared on this show is for conversational, inspirational, and educational purposes as well. So, all right, this intro is long enough. All right, so go grab your cups really quick. Go, 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 go. So I can pour this piping hot tea. Meet me inside on this episode in 1, 2, 3. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Good Tea and Reads. I am your hostess with the mostest, Kimbralon B. I am so glad that you are joining us today. You notice that I said us, which means I have somebody else in the studio with me. And the good thing about it, it's not stranger danger. This is someone that's been on Good Tea and Reads before. And I'm so excited and so grateful that they decided to come back. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But just a little bit about Good Tea and Reads if this is your first time tuning in. So, Good Tea and Reads was actually born for me having my career. Let me just talk about that because I am a licensed professional counselor, and I like to throw in a mini disclaimer, but I'm not your counselor. Always remember that. Okay. But this show, I realized that everyone may be dealing with shame, may be dealing with stigmas and things that prevent them from coming to see me in the counseling room. So I decided to take my show on the road. And I was doing speaking engagements, but they come, you got to put in a proposal, you got to wait to see if you're going to get accepted. And meanwhile, listeners and viewers, people are out here suffering in silence. So even though I'm still up to doing speaking engagements, remember that, sponsors. I am always up to doing speaking engagements at your job or on any platform. But anyway, selfish plug, had to throw it in. But I decided to take my show on the road also by creating this podcast. So I'm able to just share information on the subject of mental health anytime I want to. And what I like about Good Tea and Reads is that we tie in mental health into any topic because mental health is present in any topic. I had someone ask me once, like, what about sleep? And I said, absolutely so. Mental health is impacted by sleep. That's another show. So even when you think you're not doing something, you're doing something that's possibly impacting your mental health. And when we talk about impacting your mental health, it may not necessarily mean in a negative way. I know sometimes we hear the word impact and we're like, whoa, what does you mean by impact? This is bad. No, it may be good, right? Not everything is bad when we talk about impact, but we're just talking about how it connects to mental health. All right. So, just a disclaimer about the show in case you skipped my long intro. This show or any information shared on Good Tea and Reads is for educational, conversational, and inspirational purposes, and it does not substitute you seeking a higher level of care. And that's what I meant about not being your counselor, even though I'm a counselor. Because with me and my guest here today, even though we have knowledge in the area of mental health, we don't know your entire story or what your symptoms are. So even though we're sharing information that you can use because it's valid, it requires you teaming up with a counselor or a therapist where you're at, discussing your personal situation so you can identify the best treatment for your symptoms with somebody that's there for you. I like to just throw that in, okay? And I have to do another brief introduction of my guest. So my guest was here and we had the best conversation. Been knowing Thuy for a while, but I've learned so much more about Thuy in this last month. I think we're just BFFs. And what I appreciate about Thuy, who is a licensed counselor as well, is that I explained to Thuy, this is what I'm trying to do. I want to get the word out about mental health. I would come on and I would share what I have and appreciate all guests that even come on to the show because really they're just donating their time at this point. But when Twee and other people are willing to come back, that says a lot because they share that same purpose of not letting people suffer in silence and willing to share what they know to help you get connected to what you need. So, without further ado, Twee, I will turn the mic over to you so you can introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers.
Aw, that's so sweet of you, Kimbralon. Well, I'm so glad to be back, to be honest with you. And I think today's topic is very important, and I see that anywhere and everywhere. So I'm very, very excited to be with you. But first and foremost, let me introduce myself first. If you haven't heard the last time when we were talking, I am an independent licensed counselor. My specialties is trauma and really focus on first responder, immigrations, transitions in life, anxiety, depressions, of course, and then body image issue. That's some of my specialties that I have under my belt. Some of the other thing that I usually do when it coming to it too is that I do EMDR, which is a modality that I prefer, and we will talk it why a little bit. Maybe we have time today with our topic, and then I really enjoy here with you and talking with you and getting to know everyone else, that a listener and viewer too as well. Thank you for letting me be here.
Awesome. Thank you for coming back. Anytime you have that chair, feel free. My virtual space is your virtual space.
How sweet. How sweet.
So, today's topic, I like to use the word tea or something related to tea. And tea is merely information. It's another word for information, but this is good tea. And then reads is sometimes on the show, we'll talk about the books and anything that's in the book and how it relates to mental health. So today's topic, because Tweet really gave you a hint, is actually called trauma and tranquility.
Creative there.
I
That's
thought that was really neat, and I was like, "Hey, I wish I had came up with that completely, but I had a little help with AI." Not gonna lie, y'all, not gonna lie,
there.
because I'm running out of my tea thing. So yeah. All right, so I like to start out with a quote, Tweet, that I actually found to share while we're talking about this topic today. And so the quote is: "Trauma can make you feel like you're never safe even if the world around you appears to be safe to everyone else. This can make it incredibly difficult to explain to non traumatized people who can't see a clear reason why you feel anxious, paranoid, scared, or powerless." And that comes from the Minds Journal website. So today I thought it was really important that we talk about trauma because before me coming into the field, I just want to share this just a little bit. I thought trauma was these big things that happen. Like if we hear about war, what's going on in other countries, on, car crashes, it was just something that was just super duper on a high magnitude. And what helped me understand that trauma is more than that, that's why I had to pair up with Twee so Twee can explain even more, was that when I was in my internship in counseling, I'm just sharing this with you for the first time, Twee. I
Mhm.
was like, oh, I heard about this trauma. And I was at this internship where they had to create what they call like this trauma egg. And
Mm.
so the trauma egg starts like you go back and you think back to the very first traumas that you experienced. And this is anything, honestly, that you remember that probably caused hurt, pain, or
Yeah.
something like that. And so we had to pair up with our clients and we had to go back. And some things I found out is not a war.
Mhm.
War wasn't even on their egg. A car crash wasn't on their egg unless that was that significant event. But it even went back to something as, I'm going to say small, as falling off a bike. And I
Yeah.
was like, what? And so I learned like how trauma not only happens throughout our life, but how it impacts your mental health,
Mhm.
how it causes some people to possibly encounter like substance use,
Mhm.
to deal with the symptoms or unfortunately do the unthinkable. It's just that people don't know how to process this trauma.
Yeah.
And then you hear a lot of people talking about trauma. They experience this trauma, but I don't hear the part about them getting help. And
Mhm.
I haven't asked because sometimes I have my therapist hat on when I'm in the grocery store or
Yes.
somewhere, but I
Any
may hear people
anyone.
right, and I'm like, I don't wanna counsel them on the go, because I
Oh,
hear people just having
yeah.
conversation because I wanna say, "Hey, so, have you ever," but I said, "No, you are here trying to complete
Mhm.
your grocery list."
Yes.
But I hear that, but then I never hear the reason why
Mm.
they don't go and do something about the trauma, and I
Mhm.
don't know if they think eventually it's gonna go away. Could it go away? Or if it's still here, why am I still thinking about it? And maybe I'm just navigating through and it may be causing them to engage in some risky behavior. So it's a big deal. And I wanted to actually break this down because there was so much that Twee's willing to talk about. But y'all, even Twee in her intro, Twee, when you was even sharing that I specialize in these different areas, body image and things like that. Y'all, trauma is present in all of
Every
those
single
areas.
correct.
Yes. And what we're not doing today, everyone, I don't want everyone to think, I am officially traumatized. We're just sharing because you may not ever be able to avoid trauma, whatever that looks like. And honestly, and Tuia probably share more about this too, that even if you encounter trauma or experience trauma, because we will,
Mhm.
some people are able to navigate it, right?
Mhm.
You may be shocked from it, you may have the symptoms from that trauma, but eventually it goes away. But what we want to speak on is when it doesn't go away.
Mm.
And when it seems like it starts to increase and it starts to feel overbearing. That's what we're doing today. So I'll go ahead and let Twee get started and we're going to have a good conversation, y'all. So grab your cups and tune in because we're getting ready to fill those cups with this bitter tea of trauma. But
Mhm.
how to change that tea out and then get the tea of tranquility.
I love that. It's really you.
Thank you. Thank you, Twee. See, that's why I like Twee, y'all. Thank you. So, Twee, so we already know you're in the field. What inspired you to become a trauma therapist or become experienced in trauma?
Mm. I'm gonna say this, and you probably won't believe me, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I never planned to be a trauma therapist. wasn't
No.
ever my plan in my entire life to it's actually one of the population that I stay away from. In the very
Wow.
beginning of it, I was like, "You know what? This is too heavy for me to handle." This is something that
Yes.
I don't think that I can handle. So I always go into anxiety, depression, like I think that I can handle those. And then I was like, I'm gonna stay there instead. And little do I know, over a year and a half after training, again, I have a mentor at that point, and she was like, Thuy, I know you don't believe that you can handling it, but I want you to take a training first. And that's how I get introduced to EMDR, which is called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a treatment particularly for trauma, but it can use for any other like type of symptoms anyway. Anyway, so I was like, no, there's no way, whatever. Then I took the training on it, and then suddenly I realized trauma is everywhere. It
Yes.
doesn't really matter, like, what type of symptom coming in for you. There's trauma present in that moment all the time. So my mind gets shift so much. And since I get trained for EMDR is the first one launch me the idea of trauma affect the whole entire body, not just one
Yes.
place. That's why I say integrative out of this point, and I truly believe in that. That trauma not affecting one specific way. It's affect literally anything and everything in your life, including your body sensation, your emotion, your cognitive, your thought, your image. All of that is all funnel and connected through. So once I get that training in, I promise you, I never see undone of trauma. Like when I done with that training, I say a trauma everywhere.
Wow.
Aren't that crazy? Like my lens gets shift so much into the trauma, and then even if I talk to client who just told me, "Twee, I just have anxiety and depression," and I was like, "No, you don't. Let's pause for a second, and we can dissect about that, right?" And then would she talk about like some of my clients have panic attack, right? Those experiences become their trauma,
Wow.
right? Where they
Mhm.
experience that every day, they experience so every single time anxiety come up, automatically they have that react and respond back to that flashback, scare, afraid, fearful of that you were talking that quote that I was saying. It's exactly
Yes.
the way of responding. And then they start to avoid, even scare more. And then the anxiety
Mhm.
increasing even further, right? So
Yes.
even in that itself, it's already trauma.
Yes.
So sorry, I got get a little too deep on that end, but we
No, no, that's
been
good.
trying it a little bit. Yeah. Go ahead.
That's good. No,
Uh,
that's real good because it does cause trauma and more trauma, and people are probably like, "Oh my gosh." Oh my gosh. Yes, that's why we said grab your cups. We're gonna pour out our bitter tea. So,
right.
all right, Twee, before we continue, like we said, trauma is everywhere and everybody have experienced trauma. And when we hear people talk about trauma, and you probably have heard it too,
Mhm.
that it has a different definition everywhere, all over the world. For the show, can you give us a basic definition of trauma?
Okay. For me,
Yes.
trauma can break into two. Let's go big and then we go narrow down. Trauma
Okay.
can break into two. It's called little T and big T, right?
Yes.
Right. So little T is any experiences that you seem like it's small, but it there, but it have a certain very damaging. For example, like when I talk about little T's, I like you say it's about bullying. Right. It's about making
Yes.
fun of. It's about comments day judgment even, right? Those can consider little T. Big
Yes.
T is something like you say, it's a war, a car crash, witness somebody die, going through COVID, right? All the big wave that you're talking about, that's called big T. But at the end of the day, trauma is any experiences in your life that's still causing you distress, pain, worry, or causing a significant thing that you can react to it.
Wow, everybody. So you hear that the big T and the little T, and they definitely can impact. They definitely both play a part, even though it sounds
Mhm.
little. it can actually be huge in what's leading up to whatever a big T may look like in your life on that personal
And
level.
keep it in mind that small little T, if you accumulate that enough, right, that turn into a big T. Right? So it
Yes.
mean like all the time you get like making fun of, making fun of, making fun of, making fun of throughout your life, right? That becomes
Yes.
something small in the beginning, but if it's keep happening and it happening and it happening, it's accumulated up to a big giant T.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
You know
Yeah.
what's interesting I wanted to share, and everybody, I'm not using Twee as my therapist right now. No, I'm just really sharing this example of what you just said as far as a little T. And I like to be transparent, viewers, because that's what got me into the field in the first place.
Mm.
But like you said, like elementary school, it was being bullied. And so I am of a mature age, Twee, I
Yeah.
like to say.
Yes.
So back in school, I always like to share this story. So me and my friend Eric, and Eric was actually white. We played all the time. We were like best BFFs in school.
Mhm.
So fast forward, Jennifer. Jennifer came. And so Jennifer saw that me and Eric was playing. And so Jennifer told Eric, well, don't play with her anymore because she's black.
Mm.
Right. So Eric stopped playing with me. Right. Now this was kindergarten.
Yeah.
So that's how long it was. But from there, you navigate it, you just learn. You know how you get sad as a child, but
Mhm.
then it starts to create all of these little T's of not fitting in and
Mhm.
being made fun of. So
Mhm.
fast forward. This is the reason I'm bringing this up right now with trauma. I was at a meeting at work and we had like an icebreaker, and the icebreaker was name an embarrassing moment. So I immediately thought about high school, which people would say this was a little T.
Mm.
But I was in drama because I was aspiring to be an actress, just wanted to be. Can't you
Love it.
tell? No, but I chose this route.
Got it.
And so I was doing well, but then it was time for me to go on stage to do the play, like in front of the students and everything. And I fell on the steps, on the stage steps.
Yeah.
After that, I stopped the career. But I say all that to say at the work meeting during the icebreaker, I brought that up. And how about I experienced like this little chill, almost like that same fear, same embarrassment, how that felt in my body in that moment, talking
Mhm.
about it.
Mm.
Even though we labeled it as an embarrassing moment, I'm like, it's still a part that's really influential in my life. And I believe it directed like the path of not being, open and free and,
Mhm.
all of that. And to be in the shell, that fear of fumbling again and becoming embarrassed. So, I'm glad that you're here today. I know
Mhm.
that's what happened this week, as a matter of fact.
Oh, oh, your younger part.
Yeah.
So much touch for your younger part, and we can talk about inner child work in a little bit later, maybe. And goodness, there's so much going on with your younger part. Have to interacting with that and still keep that as a memory.
Yes. Yes, and some people may not even think that's a big deal, right, when you bring
Right,
that up, but
right,
it can be a really big deal, and it depends on how you navigate it.
right.
But which leads me into our next question. For the purposes of making, like, a connection between trauma and mental health, something similar to what I was explaining, can you provide a definition of mental health since we had the definition of trauma?
Yeah. Mental health,
Okay.
just like how in the very beginning that you talk about, right? Mental health is anything daily basic. So that's
Yeah.
mean just like in our last podcast that we talk about, to me, mental health is also integrative. Just like again, our emotional, our cognitive, and our physical health is all connecting together. And if you are in that transition of sleep can affecting your mental health, which is your mood. Sleep can also
Yes.
affecting how you're cognitive and remembering, right? Sleep can also affect the fact of how much frustration you work throughout your day or not, right? So that's
Yes.
one way for you to look at it, like it's all connected in one piece to the other piece of it. So to me, mental health, it's a whole body sensation, emotion, and cognitively all together at the end of the day. One influence the other, and then we have to figure out why and how that happens.
Yes.
And that considered mental health for me.
That's such a good definition. So, if we're thinking about the definition, listeners and viewers, that Twee just shared about trauma, and then you think about mental health impacting the whole person.
Mm,
So, that little t or that big T,
mhm,
one thing that we learned with that connection, it will impact us
yes.
mentally. And you'll learn more about that it's not only mentally as we continue our conversations.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, since we had our definitions out of the way, can you share some of the common signs of traumas that listeners or viewers should look out for after a traumatic experience? If you want to take it back to like once a traumatic experience is experienced, and
Yeah.
then go from there if you want to share the symptoms and what to look out for.
I would say 2 things right now. First of all, to me, I rarely, and I really mean that, I rarely see the dramatic experiences happen once
Okay.
in a lifetime. So trauma usually have multiple episodes of it happening and it happening and it happening to create, then maybe that our little t, right? Or for example,
Hmm.
the big T might be witness a car crash happening and then your own car crash happening. So it's always multiple. I rarely see, and I didn't say that not happening. I'm just saying that it's rare to see one single trauma event happening within your life all the time. And it's all tied into a certain theme. And we can talk about core belief in a little bit of why I say that. But
Okay.
that will be that. And then the second part is that the most common that I see when people have trauma coming to me, that is they got really anxiety or they have extremely depression. So that is the first two showing up for me most of the time when we talk about it. And then flashback, nightmare, right? Which is the other common that's happening is because whatever intrusive thought that they have or whatever the image keep happening again and again, feel like they reliving the situation all over again. And that's when they told me, "Wait, I don't know what to do with this." And I think that's one of the other common that I do. A lot of it also like hypervigilance a lot, where they suddenly feel startled. Like it just something's very small and they just jump scare for whatever the odd reason for it. And then they're like, oh my goodness, this it did happen to me, right? And then the other thing that I noticing a lot too is avoidance. So when you experience
Oh.
this trauma, right, a lot of time you're gonna stay away from whatever that is costing you in the first place. For example, and even like I gave your example, which is bully. Usually, if you get bullied, and over time of that, you start to avoid people. You start to not
Hmm.
speaking in public. You start to really stay alone, isolated in yourself more because you don't want to re-experience this, the trauma that is happening, and your body will do whatever it takes to make sure that you don't go back and reintroduce your trauma, right? The
Right.
other thing that is very common, and I know it sounds very silly, it's not really, it's dissociation. And sometimes people say that
Oh.
is daydreaming, right? So,
Yes.
like, you're going to and then suddenly you're just out and you feel like that out body experiences. Sometimes it just you think about something it's better and you can't stay in the reality of the present. You go into all of that, and that is the other big thing that indicate that you have some sort of trauma underneath that the daydreaming, that dissociation helping you to cope into your daily basic. And that's some of the very common, and of course I can go more and I'll list more, but this is some of the common one that I see a lot when I see trauma claim coming to me.
I have this question. This is a bonus question that I'm throwing at you. So, usually after a traumatic experience,
Mhm.
is it possible to experience this for a few days and it just goes away? Or should I be concerned if I'm still having this the next day after a traumatic experience?
Absolutely. So you will experience it's especially for big T. Small T might be subtle for you, but especially for
Mhm.
big T, if a car crash happening and you experience this, again, example, right? you're probably gonna be scared. You're gonna be afraid. You don't want to drive. You go into this mode of I need to protecting myself. I don't want to associate. You get into this very distress, and maybe you do have dream and nightmare and dissociate a little bit, right? That is a
Mhm.
very normal response on your body and your mind able to connect and able to recoup at the end of the day. So that's very normal. Now, if you are a month and two out of the way of that very specific incident and you still have extreme nightmare, you still very fearful of things, you still don't want to drive, you avoiding people, actually the symptom in the beginning of the trauma when it happened actually increase or stay very consistent over time, right? Then that is
Right.
considered the trauma actually not able to fully reprocessing it yet at the end of the day. And I would say that recommend to talk more about it, recommend to go and find a therapist who specialize in trauma and able to say, okay, this is like couple months ago, right? And I'm still having all of those symptoms exactly the same or worse, right? And that
Mhm.
would consider even more something that trauma could happen. But naturally,
Wow.
your trauma, you're able to reprocess itself. Your brain know how to heal you. I promise. Your brain
Yes.
know how to do stuff to heal you by itself. But sometimes it gets stuck the energy in your body. And sometimes your
Got it.
mind able to be logically you will be like, Twee, I know this make no sense. I know I'm safe now. I know for the fact that this not gonna happen again. And I know I will reassure it. Your logical understanding that. Your body, your emotion though does not. And sometimes that's
Got it.
what your body gets stuck in the energy. And that's where it's a, yeah, I logical can understand this, but my body's still shaking and fearful and, get into all of this workup for no good reason. I'm like, well, I have a very good reason why you act that way. Right? Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. And usually that's when it's important to come and see us
Mhm.
because it may be hard for you to see it if it's happening because you are experiencing it at the same time. And
Yes.
coming to someone that knows how to identify those symptoms will be able to help you get to that place to where you can process that differently. So
Absolutely.
here's an interesting fact that I wanted to share with our listeners and viewers that they may not know, Tweet. They may not know that trauma not only impacts mental health, but it also impacts our physical health too. So can you share more about this?
Yeah, I think I spoke that very example earlier, right? Like I mentioned that when trauma happen, it's not only stuck in your memory part, it's also stuck in your body part. That's mean the energy is there, right? For
Yes.
example, we go back to the car accidents one, right? So when a car accident happened in the beginning, when you try to heal, again, that trauma can heal itself if it's have proper care if it have and not getting forced into and taking care and have able to have a very positive mindset. But it gets stuck at some point if the client keep getting anxiety every single time they go to a driving. Or they even think of
Yes.
that flashback, it's stuck and it just stuck there and it doesn't go. And the body holding the anxiety. The body believe that this is not safe. The body say, you know what? It's safer to stay home instead of go to that car and driving because the possibility of you actually get hit again is pretty high, right? So all
Wow.
of it is
Yes.
stuck into this energy flow in your body where that it doesn't feel safe to go out and do things or the high anxiety of thinking, even driving. And if it's getting worse, if you the one who causing the car accident happen, right? Because then
Mhm.
shame, blame, guilt, feeling like I'm a horrible person, and it's stuck all very heavily on your body. And if you can't process that, if you can't reframe that, if you keep stuck in on the same scene, but you didn't see that you already get out and you now are safe, and your body can't recognize that, it's still there. It's still very present in that moment.
You know what? It is, and it can actually being in your body, it
Yes,
can make you sick. It can make you have like stomach issues,
yes, yes. Heart race,
heart.
muscle, back pain, headaches,
Yes.
tight jaws. What else? Stomach like really like tightening up or in a knot. That's what I hear all the time. Your leg gets shaking a lot or like really tightening up. You feel shivering. You like tense up very badly with your upper muscle. That's some of the things it's happened physically, and that's what I call trauma response, right?
Yes.
And that's what
Yes.
happened is that, initially, that is what happened, or you start to suddenly feel the sensation of, like, can't breathe, like, have a difficult breathing or going to all of those are trauma response that your body giving out a vibe of, "This is not okay. This is not
Yes.
okay. You're not okay right now, so I'm gonna let you know that you're not okay." Right.
The
Mhm.
I
Yep.
agree, and even if you feel like you're okay, because you can present through it. Sometimes it's debilitating, you all, but sometimes you may be able to get from point A to point B. You're able to navigate, you're able to do your day to day. But
Yeah.
just like Twee was saying, if something happens that causes a trauma response, your body's on alert. And what's happening, and the reason it causes a lot of pain and a lot of stress, your body can't relax.
Mhm.
Even though you may think it's relaxing because I'm at work or I'm at school,
Yes.
your body is just waiting for
Yes.
something to happen.
Right.
So it's like if you're just anticipating, for something to happen, like if you're a kiddo,
Yes.
I want the ice cream, I want the ice cream, I want the ice cream. Am I
Yes.
getting a raise? Am I getting a raise at work?
Yeah.
Things like that. But
Uh,
your body, the way you feel, like even if you think about how you would feel with that, with trauma, your body's probably feeling like this all the time, or it gets to that place.
yes.
And you're maybe, hey, I'm sitting here doing this podcast or listening to this podcast, but now my body's like this if
Yes.
something happens.
Yeah, like, it's twitching all the time, right? It need that
Yes.
movement, right? And then you bring up 2 good point. The first one is we try to normalize trauma so much that we thought
Yes.
that it's something so minimal and it won't impacting us. So I think that is
Yes.
one point that I wanna bring it out right now, that no trauma is small trauma, okay? I
Wow.
will just drop that and just say that right now. No trauma is small trauma. Trauma is trauma no matter how you think of it. How you flip both sides, toss it, color it, decorate it, whatever you wanna do out of this point. Trauma is trauma. And you
Yes.
can go in and tell me, "Yeah, but other people actually, like, get worse than me." That does not mean that you don't have trauma, okay?
Yes.
And I think that's one of the
Right.
things that I always have to encourage my client to recognize the fact of it's okay. It's okay for you to go in and acknowledge the fact, yes, other people get worse. That does not equal that you don't have the equivalent of trauma. And you don't have to play
Yes.
down, you have to minimize it at the end of the day. That's the first point that I want to bring it out. The second point that you make such a good point is the fact of it's so common in the body. Sometimes we mix it up. We thought it was
Mhm.
something else. For example, like anxiety, if we really think about it, if we talk about all the things that we just listed in a symptom, right? Anxiety can have a very similar thing.
Mhm.
It
Yes.
literally that. It's just the fact that your body did not feel safe. You go to fight or flight modes, and you
Mhm.
the stage where again you're looking for, you're anticipating for at the end of the day. But that is anxiety, and sometimes we mistook between anxiety and trauma, and that too it's coexist usually all the time. I just want to
Yes.
right now because people tell
Thank
me like that doesn't exist. I'm like, no, 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 no. These two actually go pair. Like, if
Yes.
you really wanna think about it, actually go pair a lot with anxiety, depression, and trauma, like, they kinda, like, clumps up in a group and they hang out in a club together, usually, and
But, it's true. I like what you said about the
yeah,
comparison.
yeah,
There was someone on social media that got the word that their spouse was in, I guess, in another state and was
mhm,
actually killed in a crash.
mm,
But every day, she's kind of been online
yeah,
processing, and I just think that's how she's processing grief, but it's still a traumatic experience
yeah,
because of that loved one. Whereas some people don't understand it. Why are you on social media? I guess that's what I'm saying, because if someone else maybe lost their spouse, they may be unable to get out of the bed. It may be
Mhm.
hard for them. So
Mhm.
experiences do look different for everyone, but we do compare.
Yes,
And that's very interesting to me.
yes,
So I'm glad that you even share and break that down. See,
yes,
y'all, another plus going to counseling. But Tweet, you touched on this, and I want us to talk about this. Why do you think that people choose to suffer in silence instead of seeking help? Why do they choose to just go on?
yeah. So I have 4 different answer for this, and again, it's my spoke more broadly at the end of the day, right? We mentioned this before, it is about minimizing. It's about the
Yeah.
fact that I don't think I have trauma. This is too small to consider trauma because I think the word trauma, it's scary to even talk about and admitting. The fact that, "Oh my god, I this is traumatizing," right? And that means
Yes.
that's mean you might be weak. That might mean that I couldn't handle my stuff, whatever that is, right? At the end of the day, so sometimes people just look at because maybe it's too normal for them that they have a um higher tolerance. So they were like, okay, because I have a higher tolerance, I can deal with this, right? And maybe that's
Mhm.
one way to just like I will deal with it instead. The other thing that I see a lot is about fear. It's fearing the
Mm.
fact that you have to face it again. Fearing the fact that you have to sit down and experience this and talk about it and really have to go through and process every painful detail about your trauma. And I think that's one of the
Mm.
bigger one that people scare all the time when they come into trauma. Like, I don't know if I can handle this. I don't know. That's why I chose avoidance, right? That's why I go to this place where I really, really cannot, and I don't believe that I can to
Mhm.
processing through the trauma. Or I can cure from it, or I can make any better from this. It will be there forever, right? And that's the belief
Right.
that most of people do. So what's the point of doing it? And again, depressed talk on top of trauma, you combine that two, you will find a cocktail. The third one that I see a lot too is shame. It's
Mm.
shame, and this is probably for unfortunately, it's for sexual abuse or any type of
Mhm.
abuse and neglect. And generally speaking, that I've been processed, shame's always present. No matter how I process it, shame's always right on the side and say, don't talk about this. You should not say this out loud. No one should know about the fact that you have, trauma related to, sex assault or sexual assault or
Mhm.
harassment even, right? That's the biggest one I see when it coming to that or religion trauma. That's the other one that I do, and then family,
Mm.
right? Which is a lot we can talk about dynamic of family and how that can cause trauma when it coming to it, and then I do a lot of reprocessing with, parents and child, almost in that sense where the child coming in and is so ashamed of the fact they have to talk negatively about what happened to their parents. Or as an adult now, they talk back and like, "I can't believe I have to admit the fact that my mom treated me very badly." Right? And
Yes.
all of that is coming from shame. Shame keep you locked away if it's at the end of the day, and that's go with anything, not just trauma, but shame keep you quiet down and in a corner by itself because it doesn't want to be exposed. It have a good reason why shame doing that. I'm not speaking negatively about shame. So that's why IFS is going to be internal family system. It's like my best friend right now because when we talk about it, we believe that no part is bad part, including shame. But shame
Mm.
everything box in a way in a corner because it's probably want to protect, it's probably want to not say anything negatively or whatever the reason for it at the end of the day. Last but not least, this is one of the thing that I always have struggled or challenged when it coming to it when people suffer in silence is that how would I say this in not a negative way? They have a very extreme negative belief about I will not be cured from this. They will
Oh.
always because I always gonna carry that trauma, and it doesn't matter what I do, and that's a negative core belief that I have at the end of the day when they coming to me and they say, "I don't believe that you can change me or fix me." Right? And then
Oh,
funny that I
oh,
was
yeah.
sitting there, and then I was like, "Funny that you say that, I'm not planning to change nor fixing you."
Right.
That's the
Right.
way the trauma is working, and I very normalize the fact that it is scary. It is going into this space, but it's not about changing or fixing. It's about the fact that you can able to face whatever the trauma happened and not have that extreme trauma response. That is my
Mhm.
first and always will be the goal, is that not about avoiding, not about forgetting about it, not about going in. It's about the fact that you gave yourself the permission to say, I now have the capability of facing my trauma and don't have that same negative reactions out of it anymore. That is my goal at the end of it. Or maybe you do still, but then you're able to say, I'm capable of handling it or managing it at the end of the day, right? But that is
Yes.
another last one that I was thinking about when it coming
W
to suffer in silence.
Wow, I remember you mentioned about core belief too. So I was
Mhm.
thinking about how the shame and everything can impact someone's core belief, and especially when it comes to trauma. I
Yes.
remember I was doing some volunteer work.
Yeah.
And we were there. This is I always say pre-counseling days. This is so funny because I have to explain that to people. But someone came to me. Remember, we talk about how people gravitate to
Yeah.
you with their problems, and I'm like, oh. But she had disclosed to me, and it
Mm.
was an adult that, she was sexually abused, and that was as an adult. I think because she didn't have her own place to stay, so she was unhoused, right? And she was just going around trying to
Mhm.
keep a roof over her head, couch surfing, maybe sometimes on the street, but she was unfortunately sexually abused.
Mhm.
And she came to me and she told me it's my fault. I'm
Mhm.
embarrassed to say it was my fault, and I was like, "How is it your fault?" And this was pre-counseling. It's like someone abused you. It wasn't your fault. Yeah,
Yes.
and so just like you said, that traumatic event caused that shame, and I mean, she
Yeah.
said it, and then I said it wasn't your fault, but she kinda gradually, like, faded back,
Yeah.
and that was, like, our interaction. So even what you just shared, I was like, "Wow,
Yeah.
shame will separate us." And
Mhm.
and I think because some people have held on it for so long because
Mhm.
they're suffering in silence, that
Sure.
it unfortunately becomes a part of them. And
Yes.
they may normalize it, so when it's time to come do that trauma work with you or to really work with that trauma,
Mm.
sometimes it's either the fear or sometimes it's defensiveness,
Yes.
because unfortunately, I became comfortable with how this feels. How
Yes.
dare you remove it, because what am I gonna feel after this? Is it gonna feel worse?
Oh my goodness, not even that. No, I agree with that 100%. It's about the fact of that. But then the other layer of this too is that the fact that I heard so many people, and I truly mean that, is that when we work, right? And then it was like, oh my God, what am I doing with myself if I'm healing? So it's the opposite of that.
Wow.
Is because again, if their whole life this is a part of their identity. And they know about this identity part of where they say trauma has been all of my life. This is what happening. Accepting that, and that's the identity. That's the hat they've been wearing all this time, right? And if we process it through, if we do everything of it, what are they gonna do? And they feel like they lost a part of their identities that they don't
Yes.
have. And sometimes that's what happened to stop the process happening is the fact of like, I don't think I can go forward because I don't know what to do if I'm healed. Which is very a whole
Wow.
interesting topic to talk about
Yes.
that, right? But agree with you 100% of the fact of like, oh yeah, this is my identity, right? How dare you getting in, get touch of that at the end of the day, for sure. But I want to
Yeah.
say one more thing is that core belief driven almost every single trauma at the end of the day. I'll give you an
Mm.
example. And we're gonna use the same one that if you growing up and you get bullies over time, maybe some
Yes.
of the core belief is I can't trust people. I don't believe
Yes.
I'm safe. People gonna neglect or abuse me anyway. I am so
Yep.
weak than other people, right? All those core beliefs can clumps in a group together, and they're gonna find themes and experiences that they can like tie it in as an evidence support at the end of the day. That's why I told you in the beginning, I rarely see one single episode of just trauma, is because
Yes.
usually if it happening, it meant if it didn't resolve, it meant to connecting all the evidence in your life for the most part and able to say, see, you remember that time when you were 10 and you get making fun of because you spoke up? And remember the time when you were like 20, when you in that party and then people just laughing at you? And remember when you were 35, when you go into this public
Yep.
speaking event and this is what happened, right? So they tie all of this all together with a theme of core belief. So that is
Mhm.
something that we probably not pay attentions a lot because core belief is not something that we get taught ever in our entire
Never.
life. It's probably the thought of, "Oh, I don't feel safe." But is that a thought or is that a core belief that you truly believe that I don't feel safe at all? So then you're looking for a way to cope with it, and there's always rule and assumptions of how get into that core belief, right? Mhm.
Yes. Thanks
Mhm.
for sharing that. So, you shared a little bit about this, and I want to just ask again, how will someone know if they need to seek counseling or a therapist to help with their trauma?
Mhm. First of all, you welcome to go to therapy, generally speaking, for just talking. Whatever that
Yes.
comes for you, it doesn't have to be a big thing to go to like therapy in general. But for particularly trauma, I feel like trauma will find you instead of you finding
Yes.
trauma. So this is one of those things that when we talk, we will start to recognize that trauma happened. But for clients that I usually see when they come and see me, they already have a lot of the symptoms that I list in the beginning of our episode, right? To say, Thuy, I have flashback, I have nightmare, I'm avoiding, I can't go to work, my daily routine, it's all ruined, it caused me high anxiety, right? All of those things indicate the fact that you need support. So go ahead and find the support that you need. And if you like tweet, it's all started because of one single event that happened in when I was 10 and I was so scared and now I don't want to afraid of a dog biting me anymore, right? Or afraid of the fact that I can't drive anymore, right? If that's what it is, then going to therapy help you to
Mhm.
reprocess the trauma that you need to process, however that means, learn how to managing it the way that you want, then you will able to continue the journey that you in life the way that you want at the end of the day.
Perfect.
Mhm.
So I know we uncovered a lot about trauma, and we know that you have your own private practice, which I'm very excited about. And I know we talked about shame or defensiveness or fear. Can you share a little bit of what people would experience when they come to see you
Sure.
for trauma or symptoms?
Right, right. Generally speaking, the approach that I usually gonna be which is acceptance commitment therapy, which is a approach to really talk about grounding, about accepting whatever that is happening in a moment. After I do that, I will use and I am trained in brain spotting, EMDR, and IFS, which is internal family system. So I use one of those modality, and I will let my client pick and choose whichever one make more sense for them. But usually what can happen is that when they come into me, they talk about the symptoms, whatever they do. I recognize the fact that there's a lot of things going on first. So I will offer a lot of coping tools, strategies, and all of that, and I will work with their core belief. After the core belief happening and able to write, oh my goodness, this tie into this, and this, I will do one of those that you beginning. I remember you say it's a trauma eggs. That's it. In mine, it's called a timeline. So we will sit down together and talk about the timeline in your life that is very extremely significant to you, whether it's positive or negative. And then we will pick and choose a certain theme that connect to their negative core belief of maybe I'm not safe, I'm not trust, whatever that is. Then we can process either IFS way, which is like really sit down, talk about part that is stopped and get stuck there when they were very young and they don't know how to help themselves. And that's what we're gonna recognize the fact that they no longer in that space back then. And they have to really working on of recognize, oh, I'm adult now and I can protect myself more, right? That is IFS work. Or we go to EMDR would really straight up lot less talking, a lot of less talking, more tapping, and more processing the image and the emotion. And I always tell my client is the memory will not change. That will not
Right.
ever change when it coming to the dramatic event. It's always there because it's true and it's real and it's something that you we have to learn to accept. But the emotions, the discharge or charge from that trauma response, I'm hoping that I can decrease for them and to the point that able to like when they think about it again, they will not have that extreme reactions out of that anymore. And that is the goal for brain spotting, and that is also the goal for EMDR.
Nice. Since we're on the subject, anyone that's in the state of Arizona, can you tell us about your business, how to book appointments? Do you do virtual visits or any website information for you? How can we get to you, Twee?
Both. And I also want to add, I'm actually now credentialing for Minnesota. So I'm
Yes.
doing that right now. I'm still working on it, but so I am now credentialing for Arizona and Minnesota, thanks to our wonderful compacts out of
Yes.
so I do both, and I do virtual and in person, both of them. My office located in 79 in Union Hill. So that is one of the I work Monday and Friday in person. The rest will be all virtual. My office hour from like 9 to 5, and if you need something more, let me know. We can rearrange it, however it makes sense out of this point. You can find me on website searching for even Thai counseling and consultants. You can search for my name in psychology today. I'm kind of like almost wanna like everywhere. So you just have to search my name and then I will be there in the page probably.
I love it. Okay. So now if anybody that's outside of Arizona or Minnesota,
Hmm.
and they want to see somebody about their symptoms, I'll say,
Yeah.
because they may or may not know if their trauma's impacting them, or they may know. Um,
Yes.
are there any websites that you know of that we can get people connected that's outside of the places that you're, credentialed in?
Yes. So there are multiple thing that you can do. There depends on, and I really mean this, that is depend on what modality that you want to go into. Because if you want just an EMDR therapist, right? Andrea.com is one of the biggest one where everybody in there are licensed and get trained in EMDR. And you can search
Okay.
and you based on your locations on your website, you're able to search for your state and then see who available out of that point. Same with internal family system, your IFS therapist, right? If you want one, you can go searching for that too as well. It's called ifs.com or something like that, right? You go
Right.
in, you're searching for your state, they have a directory and that same is with brain spotting. So these are the three that I just mentioned are all trauma specialized almost in that sense. If you like, I just want someone, this is the three modality that I see the most when it comes to trauma treatments, other than ketamine treatments and some other like things we can talk about those modality a little bit differently and the way how that work. But then Arizona Institute or Arizona Trauma Institute is the other one that I see a lot of people can come in searching for the resources. I myself in my own website will have all those names actually under the directory. So if you go to my
Okay.
website, there will be a little section is called resources. Under that section, you will see all the list of all the therapists that I recommend or places that I think it's my fit to refer to. So that's the other way that you can find out all the lists if you are listening and like, I have no idea where to go, right? And you're listening and you're like,
Yes.
maybe Twee can recommend me something. That's the resources that I can give.
Perfect. And if you're unable to find it, please feel free to email me at goodteaandreads@gmail.com. I can get you that information. We'll have the information also posted in the episode description, including Thuy's information as well. So, Thuy, we finished.
Yay!
We finished. See, everyone, this is what I want to say about trauma. Don't think we're making fun of it, but really, us talking about trauma, it can get heavy even for us talking about trauma. But the good thing about it is by us talking about it, even with you, there is that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. And
So oh, go ahead.
yeah, I'm so sorry for just a hot
No,
sec.
this is perfect.
I hope that this is not a scary topic because it is not.
Right.
It is something that is important and significant, but it's definitely not scary. And I promise, one promise that I always can is that your therapist, especially for trauma informed therapists, they have the skill set and the experiences that they can help you walking through this. If you really need the support that you need, just come to them and they will guide you through.
They will. They will definitely guide you through.
Mhm.
Big T's, little T's. Yes,
All the cheese in the world.
all the T's. They're
Yeah.
everywhere. But you don't have to suffer in silence.
Yeah.
Um, Hopefully, this episode help you identify if you are dealing with any type of symptoms, and even if you don't know, right? You don't have to diagnose yourself to come see us. But if you're like, wait, they mentioned about sleep, they mentioned about thinking about something. I don't know if this is a big deal or not a big deal. Come and see come and see Twee, come and see us or come and see somebody that's nearest you to assess or to see if your symptoms are overwhelming or if you even want to talk about it, right? Even if you want to talk about it, it may be something that you believe that's not impacting you on a super high level, and that's okay. If
Mhm.
you even want to talk about it and process it, come pair up with us and team up with us. I mean, it's a great experience. It actually has helped me even being in the field because me being a counselor, I have a counselor or a therapist too.
Same.
That's how we deal with ourselves. Twee also said the same. So, yeah, any final words, Twee?
No, except thank you so, so much. It's always a grateful thing to be here. And I'm very glad that I'm here and talking about this. It's one of my passions topic to talk about.
Yes. I love it, you all. So this has been great. I'm sure Twee will be back because there's things that we want to share with you to help you understand how to navigate this counseling or this therapy world so it won't be so scary. So you won't have to suffer in silence. You'll have almost everything you need to know because we're giving basic information. Again, you'll have to pair up with someone to get that specific information for
Mm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
So I can honestly say this is another great episode in the books. We'll have the information that you need in the episode description. This has been great. This is Kimbralon B with my very special guest who is a friend to me and I hope a friend to you. Twee, well, Twee won't be your friend if you go to her for services, right? She will be someone that you're teaming up with. Let me just throw that in, okay? I mean, I'm not trying to be selfish and keep Tweet to myself, but I just have to make that clear.
There.
So,
Therefore, thank you. Yeah, you saved me a lot of money.
but I'll be your friend. Tweet,
Come on,
tweet,
I will
be
be
a
your
friend.
business partner.
There you go. So that's how we'll work this out. See, teamwork makes the dream work. But thank you all for tuning in to Good Tea and Reads. Again, see you next time with another interesting topic. Bye.
Bye.